And for more, we are joined now by our senior White House and political correspondent, Ed O'Keefe, who's in Milwaukee to cover the Republican convention, and chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa is here with me in Washington. Ed, we know this was already a high threat environment and very tight security protocols were being rolled out around the Republican convention, those going to an even higher level now.
They are expected to, Margaret. We're standing outside the Pfister Hotel here in Milwaukee, where former President Trump is expected to stay. We were in there just a few minutes ago as they're making the final preparations to begin locking it down as a completely secure facility. Magnetometers being set up in the lobby, which is standard for any time a president, or in this case, former president, given his Secret Service protection and campaign activity, is staying somewhere. We anticipate that the perimeter around this hotel and other buildings here downtown might expand in the coming hours or days in anticipation. Nicole had reported that more law enforcement, for example, are being sent here to Wisconsin to help with screening and protecting various places. So it is expected to intensify, and especially for those of us going into the convention center throughout the day-to-day and throughout the week now, there are anticipated changes in security.
Bob Costa, we know Donald Trump issued a statement just this morning saying he looks forward to addressing the country and his supporters from Milwaukee. It appears it's full steam ahead with this convention.
It is. Now, the Trump campaign is on edge. They're asking their employees to be careful, not to necessarily go to some of the Trump campaign offices. They're concerned about the security, as Ed said, and they're looking at the security perimeter in Milwaukee. But at the same time, when it comes to the logistics politically of the Republican National Convention, it is all things go at this moment. Chris LaCivita, Susie Wiles, the top advisors to former President Trump, are signaling they are moving ahead with the vice presidential selection at some point in the coming days. And, of course, Trump's address to the country when he accepts the nomination on Thursday.
Bob, you and I were covering this in the moment as it was breaking yesterday. And Chris LaCivita had issued some statements in that moment in anger at what was happening. The statement to the campaign personnel that you were referring to this morning seems to be urging people to lower the kind of heated political rhetoric and tension. What do we know about that guidance and the intent there?
There is a bit of tension on this front. There is anger about what has unfolded in Butler, Pennsylvania, horror among both friends and even the political adversaries of former President Donald Trump to have this outburst of violence in the United States. At the same time, you are seeing political leadership, mostly across the board, as you say, urge temperatures to be lowered, to talk about civility, to talk about how the other side may be wrong on an issue, but are still human beings. And so you are seeing some people try to step up, but let's also be candid. Tensions are very high. We're at the height of a political campaign. President Biden, former President Trump have been at odds politically, going back to that debate. There has been a pitch posture politically from these campaigns, but we did see the Biden campaign, for example, call for the ads to be taken down.
That's right. And Ed, you know, it is, I urge everyone not to look at social media because it is not helpful to what you were talking about, lowering the tension at this moment. Ed, the Biden campaign pulling those ads, but now there is this, you know, autopsy of everything that has been said by anyone recently to try to talk about whether there is a stoking of any kind of political violence here and this finger pointing. That's not helpful, is it?
It isn't. And before we get to the finger point, I think we should convey again, the White House tells CBS News that that call last night between President Biden and former President Trump was, quote, good, short, and respectful. That is the extent to which we know about it. That it happened at all is an encouraging sign. That it was good, short, and respectful is encouraging as well. To the point about who's responsible for this, how to proceed, while the Trump campaign may be on edge this morning, the Biden campaign is very much in suspension. As we mentioned, the outward communications, as they call it, the advertising, the digital, the television advertising, the text messaging is all for now stopped. But don't be surprised if it resumes in some form in the coming days as the Republican convention gets underway. To the point about political violence, let's remember the reason Joe Biden ran for president in 2020, beginning in 2019, was because of what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. The reason he sustains his reelection campaign today, one of the big reasons he continues running, he says, is to restore and protect American democracy in the wake of the January 6, 2021 attacks. All of those examples of the political violence of recent years, and the finger pointing inevitably will continue. What it will take is our political leaders at the top, the current and former president talking to each other, perhaps the other former presidents, the House Speaker, Senate leaders coming together and saying, we've got to find a way to stop this and allow American politics to proceed as we recall from the past.
And when you said suspension, you were just talking about the pulling of ads. Are you indicating that Joe Biden is changing other plans for the week ahead?
Not at this point, Margaret, we don't know. The other element of all this, of course, is his own political future. As we've reported, just an hour before this incident, before the president was going to his Saturday night mass in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, just before the former president was shot in Pennsylvania, he was in the midst of what's been described to us as a defensive, angry call with dozens of House Democratic lawmakers raising concerns about his political prospects. He was defensive, we're told, in that conversation. And while the conversation about his future may be suspended for now, in the words of one lawmaker, it may resume again if he, quote, has another episode.
Though
Margaret?
I've been speaking...
Go ahead. We just have to wrap quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. I've been speaking with some top Democrats. They believe that those Democrats who have the concerns about President Biden are now standing down politically, will back President Biden because of this fragile political moment. All of that talk about the debate faded almost instantly among my top Democratic sources as this unfolded. Say it's time for the country to stick together, and that means Democrats sticking together as well.
And anything can happen in an instant. Bob, Ed, thank you.